How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an individual profile on Joel Embiid, the elite starting center for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think that with this profile, I think his accolades and his accomplishments and his achievements will speak for themselves as to why I believe he is a player that stands out from the rest of NBA players for the 2021 calendar year. So if you're unfamiliar with Joel Embiid, he stands at about 7 feet tall, 280 pounds. He has incredible footwork as a center because, of course, he grew up in Cameroon. So, of course, he has a soccer background. So he naturally has good footwork. He has an edge about him. He has a confidence and air about him, and he's continually growing and getting better and better as a player. Considering he picked up basketball like as a teenager or something, he picked it up pretty late. Compared to a lot of other people in the NBA that aren't even close to as good as he is. But with that said, I'm just gonna go right into the background as to why Joel Embiid is one of the best players in the NBA right now. So after getting a start in Cameroon, he would get his move to the States. He would eventually play at Montverde Academy, then the Rock School in Gainesville, Florida. He would establish himself as a good enough prospect to eventually get signed at Kansas under Bill Self, and he would eventually play one season at Kansas, and at 2013-2014 in 28 games, averaging he played a total of maybe 600 minutes. He would finish averaging 19.4 points, 14 rebounds, and 4.5 blocks per game in the 28 games that he played, all while shooting 62% from the field. He shot 69% from the free throw line, and he also averaged 1.5 steals and 2.3 assists as well as a center. So, after that incredible season, first of all, Kansas would lose in the second round, and they had Joel Embiid and Andrew Wiggins. But at the same time, both those players were taken in the top 3 of the draft. Joel Embiid established himself as a good enough prospect in his 1 year at Kansas after barely playing basketball. He was selected as the 3rd overall pick in the 2014 NBA draft by the 76ers. That was the draft in which they took Andrew Wiggins number 1 and Jabari Parker 2 over him. Jabari Parker went to the Bucks, and I believe Wiggins went to the Wolves. Don't take my word on that one. But continuing, just moving on, and Joel Embiid would eventually get his start for the 76ers, but he would have to undergo surgery for a bone in his right foot, and then injuries from that surgery would last through his first 2 years. So his first 2 years in the NBA would get completely scratched. His first year in the NBA would come in 2016-2017, and he would start only 31 games in a season where the Philadelphia 76ers as a whole would finish with a 28-54 record. They had the second worst record in the entire Eastern Conference. But in this incredibly short season, Joel Embiid would average 25 minutes a game, averaging 20.2 points, 7.8 rebounds, just over 2 assists, just under a steal, 0.9, and then he averaged 2.5 blocks per game. That's the most blocks he's ever averaged per game in a season in his career. That season, he would also shoot 46.6% from the field, 36.7% from 3, and he would also shoot 78.3% from the line. In 2016-2017, he would establish himself as a good enough rookie to make the All-NBA, or to make the All-Rookie first team. Of course, he wasn't the Rookie of the Year, as of course he was close, but he didn't play enough games to qualify as one, but he was still making a name for himself in the short season, having a Zion Williamson-esque rookie season, which is why Zion was getting all those Joel Embiid comparisons. And then looking forward, and then this would transition into all of Joel Embiid's full season so far. Every season since that season, he's been an all-star. So in 2017-2018, his first full season in the NBA, which would be his fourth season since he's been drafted, he had started all 63 games in a started all 63 games of all 63 of the games that he played in a season where the Philadelphia 76ers would finish with a 52-30 record, with the third best record in the entire Eastern Conference, with a 24 win difference than the previous season. And of course, a big help to this would be Ben Simmons putting up an incredible Rookie of the Year season. But in Ben Simmons' Rookie of the Year season and Joel Embiid's first full season with the Philadelphia 76ers, Embiid would average 30.3 minutes per game, the first time he's ever averaged 30 minutes a game. He averaged 22.9 points per game, increasing his scoring points per game average. He increased his rebounds from 7.8 to just 11 rebounds. He increased his assists per game from 2.1 to 3.2. His steals dipped from 0.9 to 0.6, and his blocks dipped from 2.5 to 1.8. From the field, he shot 48% from the field, which was an increase from 46.6, despite the fact that he shot 3 more shots per game. His 3-point percentage dropped from 36.7 to 30.8 in his second year, but he was taking the same amount of threes. From the free throw line, his free throw numbers dropped just maybe a percentage, but he was shooting about the same. And in 2017-2018, he would be named. First of all, he'd be named to the All-NBA second team, in addition to being named to the All-Star team for the first time in his career. And he would also be named to the All-Defensive second team for the first time in his career, establishing himself as a top 10 player overall in the NBA and a top 10 defensive player, which is one of the biggest honors you can really award a center in the NBA. So, of course, Joel Embiid was definitely on his way to being one of the best players. And after being named an All-Star and being named a second-team All-NBA player and a second-team All-Defensive player, the 76ers would go on to beat the Miami Heat in the first round of the playoffs, but then they would lose in the conference semis to the Celtics. And this is the year they made the run where Jason Tatum kind of took over when Kyrie Irving got injured for the playoffs. That's where, just to give a little bit of context for 2017-18, right before LeBron took the Cavs to the finals for his last time in Cleveland. But this would transition into Joel Embiid's second full year in Philadelphia in his age 24 season. He would start all 64 of the games that he would play in a season that the Philadelphia 76ers would finish with a 51-31 record. They finished with the third best record in the East, but this time they had one less win. And this season, Joel Embiid would go on and averaged 3.5 more minutes per game. And in his second All-Star season, he would increase his points per game average from 22.9 to 27.5, the second highest he's ever put up in his career. He increased his total rebounds per game from 11 to 13.6, the highest he's ever put up in his career. He increased his assists from 3.2 to 3.7, the highest he's ever put up in his career. He increased his steals from 0.6 to 0.7. He increased his blocks from 1.8 to 1.9, which is still incredibly high. His field goal percentage remained at about 48%. His three-point percentage remained at about 30%. And then his free throw percentage shot up from about 77% to 80%. All while the 76ers maybe lost one more game, but of course Joel Embiid got better. And in 2019, he would go on to make his second career All-Star game. He would make the All-NBA second team for the second ever time in his career, and he would make the All-Defensive second team for the second ever time in his career, establishing himself as a top 10 player in the NBA on offense and on defense. And once they made the playoffs, the 76ers would beat the Nets in the first round this time, and then they would lose to the Raptors in the conference semis. And this was the year that Kawhi Leonard hit like the craziest playoff shot ever. And then the Raptors would go on and beat the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. Just for a bit of context, they lost to the Raptors in 7. I mean, the score was tied when Kawhi hit that shot, but that shot was incredibly big, and had it gone any other way, it probably could have been the Sixers winning the finals. But alas, the Sixers didn't win. They were that close. And this would transition into the Philadelphia 76ers next season in 2019-2020 and Joel Embiid's last season in the NBA. And just to give a little bit of context, in 2019-2020, of course, the COVID-19 vaccine broke out. Towards the end of the NBA season, they had to break on and go on hiatus for a very short bit. And then they had to return in a bubble in Orlando. And because the Sixers were a team that qualified for the playoffs, they had to play like 8 more regular season games than they played in the playoffs. And in a very mysterious atmosphere. So, it was a very intriguing situation for all the players involved. So in 2019-2020, in a season that involved fans for a majority of the season, Joel Embiid would start all 51 of the games that he would play in a season where the Sixers would finish with a 43-30 record. They finished with the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they actually finished with the best home record in the NBA, and on the road they were just not as good. In this season, Joel Embiid would see his numbers drop, or see his minutes per game numbers drop from 33.7 to 29.5, as of course he was nursing some injury stuff that season as well. And in 2019-2020, he would see his points per game drop from 27.5 to 23 points. He saw his rebounds per game drop from 13.6 to 11.6. His assists, that's still incredibly high. He went on an average three assists, which is still a drop from 3.7 the previous year. His steals went up from 0.7 to 0.9. His blocks went down from 1.9 to 1.3, which is still incredibly high. From the field, he took 3 less shots per game, and he saw his field goal percentage drop from 48 to 47%. He saw his 3-point numbers increase from 30 to 33% after taking 1 less shot per game, 1 less 3 per game. And he would see his free throw percentage stay at about the same. But at the same time, Joel Embiid would go on to be named to his 3rd ever All-Star team. He would not be named to an All-NBA team or an All-NBA second team. But of course, just being named to it, he was named an All-Star for the 3rd straight time in his career, the 3rd full season in his NBA career. And following that, the Sixers would go on to face off against the Celtics. And after Joel Embiid was after Joel Embiid was dealing with a lot of injury stuff, the Sixers would end up losing to the Celtics. They would end up getting swept in the first round 4-0 in Orlando. And that is the last time that Joel Embiid has ever made the playoffs. Just to get a sense of what happened last season. And this transitions to this current season in 2020-2021, which is currently Joel Embiid's age 31 now, which is age 26, now age 27 season. He will go on to increase his minutes per game average from 29.5 to 32.6. He started 31 games so far this season, and right now the Philadelphia 76ers are sitting with the best record in the Eastern Conference as of right now. In the playoff picture, they sit half a game ahead of the second place Brooklyn Nets, as they are currently on a 5-game winning streak. They've won 8 of their last 10. And looking at where the Sixers are right now, their next game is today at 8, facing off against the New York Knicks. So Joel Embiid will have a chance to show what he's got against the New York Knicks tonight, just to get a sense of what he's up to. But this season, in the 31 games, he would go on to be named to his 4th All-Star game in his 4th full season in the NBA. He would go in, after increasing his numbers by about 3 minutes, he went on to increase his points per game numbers from 23 to 29.9, a near 7-point increase. His rebounds per game is remaining at about the same, at about 11.5. This is the 4th season in a row he's averaged at least 11 rebounds per game. He's averaging about 3.3 assists, which is typical of him. This is the first time in his career he's averaging at least a steal per game. He's averaging 1.2. He's averaging 1.4 blocks, which is one of the lower averages of his career, but he's still playing incredibly well. And then shooting close to the most he's ever shot in his career. This is the first time in his career he's ever shot over 50% from the field. He's shooting 52.5% from the field. He's shooting almost 3 3-pointers a game, and this is the first time in his career he's shooting over 40% from 3, shooting 44 or 42% from the line. or 42% from the 3-point line. And then right now he's shooting 85.9% from the foul line. That is the highest free throw percentage he's ever shot. He's shooting dangerously close to 50, 40, 90 as a center. And of course, naturally, he was named an all-star starter this year. And he very well could be on his way to being named a first-team All-NBA player. But with that said, that hasn't been named. And I think just looking at the player that he is now, just seeing how impactful that he is for this Philadelphia team, this organization, and how this team moves as he moves. And I think it just shows that he is definitely one of the best centers in the NBA. He definitely stands out amongst other centers, and he's definitely a player who's on his way to potentially retire as one of the best centers the game has ever seen. I think there's a lot more to him. I think he has a lot more to build as the years go by. But I think as of right now, March 16th, 2021, on his 27th birthday, I believe that Joel Embiid is an elite basketball player that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on for 2021. And with that said, I hope you get a chance to watch the process. He's currently wearing number 21 for the Philadelphia 76ers. I want to thank everyone once again for listening to all 16 minutes of this piece. Once again, today is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I want to wish Joel Embiid a happy 27th birthday. I hope all is well, and I will catch you with more pieces and more profiles after this. I hope all is well. Thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and peace out.